Hi, everybody. Welcome. We're so excited to have everybody here today. We're going to take some time as people filter in. Um, I'm sure there are folks that are waiting for their little one to go down for their nap, or just went down for a nap, or just finding their seat, getting a glass of water. We'll let people trickle in. We'll have a nice, intimate crowd today. Uh, for a very exciting topic, which is play. And I'm excited that Marielle is here to join us. Before we get started and I do introductions and everything, I'm just going to launch some polls that we like to do ahead of time. Um, Most importantly, if you can just click there, and then also if you go into the chat and set it to everyone, we always like people to just write in where you're joining us from. It's very fun to see how far and wide each of you come from. But we're going to launch this poll. It's one of the things really fun to see is how old your little ones are, so we can try to cater the conversation as best as possible. Looks like we have more of a toddler-driven crowd today, which is great. We're very excited to dive into that. All of
Toddlers are
you.
good at play.
Yeah, the best. All right, and we're trickling in. The other thing is, as we continue to go through this, Marielle and I are going to have a very robust conversation. But more importantly, I'm sure each of you have questions that you want answered. So we'll always have our Q&A open. At the bottom in your Zoom, there's a little Q&A with a question mark. Click that, put your questions there. Try not to put them in the chat because chances are that we won't see them. But the Q&A, we will 100% see. We will 75% chance of answering it, to be honest, because sometimes we run out of time. But we will see it, and we'll try to get to all of them if we can. And even if they're coming in early and they feel better than the questions I have pre-prepared, we'll get there sooner. I'll end this poll and kind of show you the results so you can see who's here. But it looks like most of you have that early stage toddler, 1 to 2 years, maybe start in daycare, maybe with another caregiver, maybe they're starting preschool. So a lot of you in the same boat. This is all part of what we like to call our back to routine time of year. For this age of parents, it's not really back to school season like elementary school and later is. It's more that return from summer. That idea of the real world is back and we're kissing goodbye to the beach and the sunshine, and we're back indoors and we're back to packing lunches and tying shoes and getting dressed on a schedule and all of that. So we're excited to welcome Marielle from Cooper today to talk about play. I'm Michael. I'm one of the co-founders of Lalo. And Marielle, like I said, is joining us from Cooper. But she's not just joining us from Cooper as a co-founder and VP of content and community. She's more than that. She's a social worker. She has been clinically involved with little ones for a long time. And most importantly, the best job of all, she's also a mom of 2 little ones, Madeline and Lucas. And based in Los Angeles. So I'm excited to dive in with you, Marielle, and to talk about play.
Thanks for
I
having me.
guess,
Excited to be here.
yeah,
A little
of course.
depressed that you said summer was over, and
I didn't say.
my elementary schoolers are starting on Monday in LA, so I'm feeling it very acutely today.
Okay, I'm in New York, so we're not that
You've got
close.
more summer to go. Lucky you.
I apologize. I'm sorry I brought up deep feelings to start this webinar. But Godspeed. Anyway, let's get into the basics of play. I think play at different ages means different things. And I think sometimes I've experienced this as a parent. There's like a level of patience also required, an understanding of what play is.
Yes.
But can you help me understand, like, even in the first place, why play is important? Like, what's the critical factor in growth and development with play?
It's a great question, and you bring up a lot of great points, and I know we're going to be like a runaway train of things to say, but like play, whether you're like a Montessori person, you're like play is work, or you're like Fred Rogers and it's like play is essential learning, right? What we know about play is that it creates kind of a state of flow. And that's a psychological concept where kids are in the zone of learning, right? And if you're thinking of the way we think about children's learning best, when they learn because they were curious about something, when they make that discovery for themselves, they learn double, right? They learn triple. They learn endlessly in terms of the connections between different aspects of what they're learning and what they're doing, and also the real world application for that. So we know that when kids play, they get into that state of flow where learning is best. We also know that play is like a safe space for kids to test out a lot of the things. So you might be hearing your kids testing out what you do with them on their play, right? And you're seeing how they're recreating what it is to say no or say, you're not allowed to do that, or whatever they're trying to work on. But you might also see them imitating school if they're going to daycare for the first time and figuring out how they do things in a cubby or something they're scared of, like going to the doctor. We use play for across the lifespan for so many kind of safe spaces of exploration. So we really can't like overstate the importance of
Yeah.
play. In the development world, it's sort of like the pinnacle of things that kids need to do regularly, and it's kind of under, I would say, threat by all of the rest of our parenting brains, which sometimes tell us that our kids should be like learning things and taking classes and doing extracurricular activities and having a really structured overscheduled day, and that can sometimes interfere with our ability to value like banging on some toys on our living room floor and feeling really
Yeah.
good about that.
Yeah.
And then, as you also said, it can be boring and hard for adults to play with their kids. And sometimes our kids are not good at playing alone. So it can also create some stress for us.
Yeah, yeah. I've experienced all that. I think what I heard you say and what I've learned through conversations with uh, pediatric specialists, educators, play therapists, is that play means a lot of things. It's not in a box. Like
Right.
it's not play is using this block and building this thing. Play actually has a little bit of kind of a malleable definition, and the more open-minded parents can be towards the idea or the definition of play, the more we can define as play and the more opportunity for learning and development there actually is that fair, like
Totally fair.
distilling of what you just said?
Yeah, because it doesn't have an agenda. Like building the blocks in the right formation to be the tower is an agenda, right? Like copying the box of what it's supposed to look like, that has like a right or a wrong. Play is really like the child-led curiosity around like, what do I want to explore? Maybe what I want to find out is how to make this tower fall 50 different ways. And that's the
Right.
discovery that's happening. So we could definitely look at that. And I get a lot of parents who are like, my kid doesn't know how to build a tower. Like something's wrong, right?
Yeah.
And it's like maybe your kid isn't interested in what goes up, they're interested in what falls down. So you're
Right.
totally right. It has a lot of different definitions. I mean, even adult play, like what we consider that break for our mind where we just get caught up in
Yeah.
something that we can freely enjoy. Like it looks really different for
it's
a lot of us.
it's so funny you bring up the what goes up versus what goes down in the idea of play, because we have our play boxes, which are these curated collection of
Oh,
toys,
great. Yeah.
which actually I'll talk about our giveaway for this webinar, which I forgot to mention at the beginning after this point. But one of the toys in those boxes is this ball drop, and it
Yeah.
fits together nicely, and the ball falls down. One complaint we've gotten from parents is that how much kids love to knock it down and it comes apart, and how they're annoyed by having to rebuild it. And the funny thing about that complaint is we're addressing it and trying to solve that because we want parents to feel confident. But when we actually designed that toy, we actually talked about it falling down and being built as part of the play value.
Of
And so
course.
there's this disconnect of like, play actually doesn't, play is not perfect.
Yeah.
Play is meant to be imperfect and times messy, at times frustrating, because
Yes.
that's where the learning and growth comes from. But
Yeah.
that brings me to the giveaway, which I forgot to mention at the beginning, because I'm sure all of you in this are interested. But one of you lucky people that showed up today is going to win our play boxes or a gift card for equal value, as well as a 1 hour one-on-one private session from a child expert from Cooper. So that's a really amazing, it's almost $500 value in all of that. And you'll get to dive deeper into play. But let's continue our conversation. I think also means different things at different ages. Can you talk a little bit about like the evolution of maybe like under one to like that top, and then like early toddler to, call it three and beyond, what play looks like at those different stages?
Absolutely. So we tend to kind of apply our adult understanding of play to our kids and expect them as babies, if we're taking them at 4 months old to a music class, to play with other kids there. And it's certainly not that in the beginning. It's not about being social. It's really about different discovery. So we're talking about like all of the great stuff that you guys have that are play mats and toys that make noise and things that create different textures and stimulations for babies in the under one set, right? Things around gross motor that help you climb and explore and sort of feel your body in different ways, or it's all the kind of play. And a lot of that is really floor play. We tend to forget how important it is to put our babies down to play, but that is where we need them to be so that they can actually begin to explore that. Then with our like standers in that 1 to 2 year phase, a lot of the play is about making more connections. They have better skills, they have better fine motor, but they're still not necessarily interested in communal play. We call that parallel play, where two kids will stand next to each other at a water table and both be splashing and not recognize each other, right? No interest across that. And then we move past two into sort of the pretend play phase. And I just want to stop for a second, because pretend play we do for the rest of our lives. I would probably play with
Yep.
dolls right now if that was socially acceptable. Like, I loved playing with dolls. And if you daydream in your car and you imagine yourself in a different life, like, you're doing the same thing, right? Pretend play is one of the best ways that our kids in that older toddler stage begin to work out perspective taking and how it feels and what it is like to be someone else. So that's when we start to see a lot of play that mimics real life, when they want like the vacuum cleaner and they take the pots and pans and they make you dinner, and the play kitchens and all of the other incredible things that support that development. And then we get into more cooperative play, which is where kids
Yeah.
are actually learning together to do something. And that can be really bumpy in the beginning. That's kids with each other, negotiating and figuring out if they want to even play the same game, which is really hard to do when you don't realize that other people don't think everything you think, right? To get aligned on that. And then as that moves forward, we obviously see cooperative play take off, and we can think of kids in that older pre-K years as getting really good at that and moving into elementary. So it definitely evolves. It also, I would say, evolves in how much you're involved in it, right? So maybe in those early newborn days, you can really understand how you're not involved in play because your baby can sit there and wander on their
Yeah.
own. But then there's that weird spot in the middle where they want you to play with them all the time. And we bump up against like our own comfort, making funny voices and sitting on the floor and using puppets and all that. And then we really want to learn to encourage our kids to have independent play and figure out for themselves what they want to do. And so there's that kind of back and forth in how it evolves with our role, and where we
Right.
fit.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's like everything with kids. Like some kids are, innately better at different parts of that, or
Definitely.
inherently better, which I've
Or
seen in
birth
my two
order.
kids.
Like by
They're
the time you have your
yes, birth
third, they
order for
get
sure.
really good at being alone because nobody's giving them.
Independence play starts when they're 3 weeks old.
That's
Yes.
right.
So let's so this is obviously a lot about routine, and sometimes the idea of our own routines, the things we have to get done, feel like they're at odds with the of creating a practice for introducing play into routine. Do you have any tips or ways to like work play into your routine versus making it like two things that are at odds with one another?
Yeah, I think it's to leave yourself enough unstructured time. Like, I think one of the things is that downtime for parents can sometimes feel really scary, especially when you're like, I have to figure out something to do with you in my New York City apartment and there's no space, and whatever that looks like. I think the more you can embrace that and say, hey, I'm going to be making dinner or doing some work calls, and you're going to sit here with the things that we've put on the cart, with the kit that we have and the things we've put down on the mat, and you're going to figure it out. And that's okay. My role can be doing something else and supporting that, and I can build play into the natural cycle of my day. If you're going to playgrounds, if you're thinking of play in that way where you're consciously like making a plan to go somewhere, that can help a really scheduled parent figure out a way to do it. And certainly if you're just needing to reimagine like what you do in a day in the forest or a day at the beach or whatever, really rethinking that all is play. And you can give yourself some
Yeah.
structure within that. maybe you do a scavenger hunt and you look for shells on the beach, and it's both a game that has an agenda and it's play because it turns into a million other things, right? But you sort of want to schedule it in a sort of unstructured way. And don't be afraid of your kids being bored. I think I hear a lot from parents like, he goes crazy if he's home too long and she gets so bored and she needs help. But in that boredom comes a lot of that discovery. So sometimes it's our own discomfort with our kids, like not knowing what to do, that sends us into that place of like, he must be bored, as opposed to being
Yeah.
like, I don't know, buddy. Why don't you try figuring it out? Show me what you got, and sending them back. Like in that great ball drop example, being like, huh, I don't know what happened. It seems like it fell apart. Let's see what else we could do with it, and give it
Right.
back to be like, we can work through this frustration. We can figure out
Right.
something different for that to be.
It's the Sesame Street. I wonder what if. Let's try.
Exactly.
Um, so okay. Um, I'm going to ask one more question because we're starting to get inundated here in the Q&A. I want
Yeah,
to shift there. But you talked about independent play, the importance of it, and sometimes it feels like um, there's almost too much. Like there's a lot of it's almost like we do a starting solids webinar and like there's the baby led weaning police.
yeah,
Sometimes it feels like there's the independent play police too. But
totally.
what are some tips you have for encouraging independent play or taking baby steps into independent play if you're not comfortable with it or don't know where to start?
That's a fair thing. You brought up temperament before. And so I just want to make anyone out there who feels like independent play police exist, like it's also temperament driven. If you have a kid who is a social creature who would talk to anything that is alive before they would play by themselves, some of that is just who they are, right? So not every kid is going to be great at independent play. But when we think about it, where I would start is you taking a sort of backseat but present role to play. So maybe you're sitting on the couch and you're reading, and I'm going to say a book in this crazy world. I'm going to say not reading your phone, but that's a different webinar that we could do together, Michael, another time. Okay. So
Yeah.
you're reading a book, or like, God forbid, you know what a magazine or a newspaper looks like, and your child is playing and they want your involvement. And maybe what you're doing is like, oh, you're making a restaurant? That's amazing. Feed me something. And then you're going back to read, and they're doing a little on their own. And then they're saying, Dada, Dada, I brought you this. And you say, okay, great. I'm going to take a bite. Oh, delicious. Make me something else. And then you're going back to reading. That I would think of as the gateway to independent play. You're not like taking over and saying, why don't we make that? Let me sit with you. Let's make the spaghetti. Ooh, I feel like, but you're doing some amount of interaction. I think if you can stretch slowly yourself out and give them a little bit more, that's one way to do it. Another way is just to think about, while your kids are playing, looking busy elsewhere and telling them to report back to you, really. So saying, the
Right.
baby's on the mat and you're in the other room, and you say, are you having fun? Oh my goodness, I hear all those things making noise, but you're not there, right? So
Yep.
there are other ways to soothe them and reassure them that we're there without jumping in. And then the last thing I'll
Right.
say is like, the more, if any of you out there with the 3-year-olds and the 4-year-olds where they want you to do it, that's where you really want to say, like, it's not independent play, but it's also not for me to prove to you that at 40 I'm better at this than you are. Like, that's the
Right.
assumption that you'll be better. So instead of taking over and saying, I'll do this for you, that's a good time to say, you know what, buddy, like, I can give you a suggestion or a hint, but you got to go back and try it, and pushing their play to continue.
Okay. I love that. All right. Q&A time because they're
Okay,
piling up here.
do it.
I said my goal is to get to 75% of these. So I apologize in advance if we don't get to yours in the next 5 to 10 minutes, what we have left here. This question's from Chris. Is it normal if a toddler breaks their toys or throws their toys out of curiosity? Is that like a normal thing?
Absolutely. That is cause and effect. I wonder what will happen if I throw this down the stairs is an important learning. It's fine for you to say, if it's something that feels like dangerous, you can say, you know what, that's not the way we use that toy. Let's take a little break until we can figure that out. But otherwise, breaking, in the extreme, like take apart the toaster example, is an essential part of learning, right? So sorry for the toys, but good for you.
Agreed. All right. This question's from Sarah, who sounds like she's got two at home. And so, any tips on supporting play with children at different ages? I have it. I have a 4.5 and a 2-year-old. Like you have an older and a younger. Uh, you know,
And the
Yeah,
younger
like,
one's not interested. Totally.
yeah, or parallel, like how, they want to steal from one another. Like, how do you balance that sibling thing with the play, encouraging playing together, etc.
This is another example where siblings are great practice for the rest of life. So you guys should just think of them as practice, learning to get along with others. You don't need to feel like you can smooth over every sibling moment. So whether it's the 2-year-old breaking everything the 4-year-old has created, or the 4-year-old wanting to boss the 2-year-old around about where to stand, what to say, what to do, and the 2-year-old's not cooperative, this is like every other sibling tension. It's great if you can think of activities they can do together that they enjoy. So you can front load a little of that. Like if you're all sitting in a fort and you're all playing, a pretend game, like then it might be something better for them. But if it's something in the case of like your 4-year-old's building, blocks and your 2-year-old's just slamming them over and over again, then it's also okay to say we're not ready for that yet, right? Like cooperative play isn't happening for us. And so they need a little bit more separation. But in general, we want to let our kids get messy, work it out, have struggles around play because it's also just a great space to work through all the other things that are hard about, going through life with somebody else always around, which is for a lot of parents, like we're so focused on the joys of siblings that like it's okay. We can normalize that they're also frustrating.
Yeah. Okay. This question's from Morgan, and they have a son at home and a baby brother on the way. Um, any recommendations for that transition, and including the toddler in play while also caring for the newborn?
So I'm going to say something totally controversial, Michael, and I hope you're going to agree with me. In my belief, all the toys in the house belong to everybody. There's no
I
such
agree.
thing as my toys, your toys, baby toys, big kid toys. Toys are for everyone to use, including me and my husband and the dog and anyone else who wants to participate. So one great thing is if you're bringing a baby in, not getting super territorial about the big kid toys and making or keeping the baby toys away because big kids always think baby toys are fascinating when they don't need them anymore, right? And someone else is interested. So really universalizing that and trying to help play stay something that everybody can do. And by the same token, while you're trying to feed the newborn and you want your toddler to play alone, that's going to be really difficult. So instead, you might say to your toddler, like, hey, get that puzzle, come sit next to me, and I'll watch you do it while I feed the baby, so that there's a little bit more involvement in the places where you can do it. Toys are like a scooch dangerous with newborns around, so you also can keep an eye on like where we put all the pieces of things or what things we're throwing across the room. But other than that, there's a lot to sort of facilitate in there. And babies don't get
Yeah,
truly annoying till like 8 or 9 months when they can move over and steal something from you.
that's right. I would also, the only thing I agree with that philosophy. We practice that
Okay,
in
great.
my house. The other thing I would add is it's a great time to get your son a doll too, because if they're at that pretend play stage that Marielle mentioned before, you got to feed your baby, you have to bathe the baby, you have to change the baby's diaper, put him down for a nap. Your son can participate in it and not interrupt that practice, but can do the pretend play side and feed their baby, change their baby's diaper, bathe their baby, whatever the action is, and keep them out of your hair a little bit too.
That's a
So they're
great tip.
learning playing and being helpful by being not helpful. Um,
And they can learn to change diapers
okay,
and help you out.
that's there you go. Yeah, but listen, my daughter has a fascination with helping throw away the poopy diaper, seeing the poopy diaper, ever since my son was born. So yes, I
Absolutely.
don't know what's there going on there. Anyway, maybe I hope I get the pronunciation of your name right, but
That's
this question
Gita.
is
I know
from
Gita from
Gita.
Paper.
Okay, Gita. Okay. Oh, Gita. Nice to see you. I was gonna say Gita because I know a Gita, but I was gonna pronounce the whole name. So I'm glad I got permission for the nickname Gita. Much easier. Thank you. How do we know through play if our child's development is at par with it or expected per milestones or is on track? Is that a thing
Yeah.
that we should be paying attention to?
I don't think that's a thing you should really worry about. In terms of like when we think about social skills, that's going to be something that daycare or preschool are going to help you assess how they're playing with others. And again, that's where we're really looking at the 2+ crowd to see how that interaction is happening. And that's things like, can we take turns? Sharing's not a thing kids do. So can we take turns? Can we figure out how to play cooperatively? Can we set different agendas for different games? But prior to that, I wouldn't look at play around too many developmental milestones, with the exception of things like using play to help cross the midline, which is when babies are little and we can put a toy to help them be able to reach and grasp and work their arms in both hemispheres of the brain, right? Or thinking of music, which can help us calm down and be play based. Other than that, I think besides facilitating development, I don't think of it as a great way to measure how they're doing with milestones.
I have time for like two or three more, so I'm gonna quickly
Okay.
scan what we have here and then fire off a couple more. All right, this question is from Anna. No, anonymous. Sorry, Anna anonymous. Um, what's your take on playpens?
So I think that anonymous person might be talking about putting up like gates to have a
A
larger.
barrier? Yeah,
Yeah. So just to clarify, it's not like sleeping in the pack and play as a
correct.
playpen. I feel fine about those. I'm a New York City person, so like I totally get you cannot have your baby in every space, and you cannot baby proof every space. In larger homes, smaller homes, it doesn't really make a difference. I think as long as there's enough space, again, for the floor play, the movement, the exploration, they can totally work to gate off a certain area and be able to do that. And in terms of like rotating the toys you put in there, I mean, I think you do what's practical for you. But again, if your child's consistently interested in something, I wouldn't like take it away and say, you need to play with a new toy now. Like that should be done and force them not to be able to explore that. So I would put in there whatever you think your kids are interested in and then let them surprise you what they gravitate towards.
Okay, this question is from someone named Anna this time.
Okay.
Um, what are your thoughts on screen time and education or educational screen time?
So I don't educational screen time not really a thing, right? Totally fine with some amount of screen time. I just wouldn't use it calling it educational screen time. So again, totally other webinar to talk about screens, but when we look at the data around screens, the most important data is what screens are replacing. So kids who are getting plenty of unstructured real play on the floor and going outside and seeing other people and having interactions and getting talked to and played with all day can absolutely have a way to have screen time in their lives. I'm not at all anti screens, but screens don't replace play. They don't enhance play. They don't do the same thing as play. So we don't want to mistake like our kids singing along to Miss Rachel or whatever they're enjoying as a substitute for this type of play. But that's not to say that it can't be something you also do as part of your routine.
Two more, and we're gonna do it. We're gonna wrap it up.
Ready?
And so Ariane is gonna pull a winner and shoot me it, so I have it at the end, and then get ready. We're getting ready to announce that. But this question's from Morgan, which is, how many toys are recommended to be out at a time that's not overstimulating? I've heard so much about toy rotations.
I don't know. This is for you what feels right for you. Toy rotation, I don't know about you, Michael. Like that's exhausting as a parent. Like I am not keeping track of it. I don't also did not ever have space for my kids when they were younger to be like this one goes out and this one I'm hiding and this I think if you feel like your child is overwhelmed in their play space and they don't know where to start, then picking a few things can help get that going. I don't know that you have to take the rotation super seriously. And again, stimulation is one of those things, not all kids are affected equally by it. So I would
Yep.
really use their temperament and how they're doing as the guide for whether or not you need to think about quieting the noise. And I'll just say to you, what's more, and I don't know your experience, Michael, as a parent, but like I'm overstimulated at some of the kids' gyms or the indoor
Yeah.
playgrounds or places where we've got everything going and screaming and running in different directions. So it's really easy for me to understand the reaction that a lot of kids get in those spaces. I think at home, the stakes are much lower and it's a lot harder to overstimulate in that kind of setting.
Yeah, I agree. I think for I would agree. I think it's a little bit of a question of like, are you really doing it for your kid or are you doing it for yourself? Is
Right.
part of it too. Like some people have like ability to be cool with clutter. Some people don't. They want a cleaner space, a tidier space, and like I think it's with kids. It's very easy to deflect and say it's because my kid. It's okay to say I don't want 600 toys out and I want five because that's how I want my
100%.
space. So I
Totally.
think that's okay. I think with the what we did with the play boxes isn't by default a toy rotation, but what it does is it takes out the guesswork of what you need and how to use it in this stage. But all of our toys come with guides that also tell you how to use it for later. Because as Marielle said, there's no such thing as baby toys and toddler toys. Kids can learn and adapt to how to use toys differently at different stages. So we want to make more value. But if you're interested in rotating or your kid is over that thing, which happens, we also have a donation program. So when you're done with the toys, you can declutter, you can move on to the next box. And that can be subscription. We have subscription, but you can also just buy one box at a time. If subscription is not your thing, we totally get that. About half of our customers subscribe and about half do not. So either way, however you want to cut it, it's up to you. I'll drop a link in the chat so everybody has a link to the play boxes, but it's kind
That's
of toy
awesome.
rotation by default without the pressure of true rotation or stressing about what rotation means.
And the noise about
Okay.
buying everything, I think helping to pare down that you don't just buy everything is so helpful about doing the play box. But I will just say on the organizational front, it's great for your kids to learn a good cleanup system. So, like, there's no reason you can't have bins that are trucks in a bin that's labeled trucks. I'm all for that. Like, think of making that preschooly, but that doesn't necessarily mean you can't take down all the bins, clean up all the bins, and put them all away, right? So, keep in mind that teaching your kids how to sort and categorize is actually a really important skill. So if you do cleanup game and you say, let's put everything that's blue in this bucket and let's put everything that's a car in this bucket, you're actually doing really important teaching and cleaning up.
Yep. Okay. Last question and then the giveaway, and then we say goodbye.
Okay.
This question's from Viviana. Um, Parent guilt is real. With
Is it?
independent play, is it possible for a child to feel like the parent isn't fully engaged?
I think that's all in how you are with explaining it. And again, with the way you use your voice and calling to let them know it is really okay for our kids to know we're not engaged in them all the day. In fact, it's actually healthy. It's really good. And I know I won't, Viviana, I'm not going to win you over in one day, but for your child to understand that you have a life, you have a job you love, you have friends you love, you have a spouse that you might want to ever spend time with is great for your kids. Our kids really want to see us as whole, imperfect, still in process humans. And all our data would suggest and support that. So you don't need to have your child think that everything you do is less important than them by literally doing nothing else. You can convey that they're the most important thing to you and also be able to be on the phone and read a book and take a work call and cook dinner and all the other things we have to do. So don't set it up as an either or for yourself. Use your voice and the power of your relationship to explain it. So I don't know how old your kid is, but say to your kids, like, okay, you're going to play with this while mommy has to go do a phone call. And then I'm going to be right back and I'm going to see what you made and I'm going to hear all about it. That sounds very loving. That does not sound like neglectful mom I haven't seen and I don't know what she's doing. So give yourself permission to do what also makes you whole and remind yourself that your child on a deep level has that attachment whether or not you spend every second with them. My last plug is just to say that the
Yeah.
more time you spend with your kids does not signal the more quality of your interaction, the higher the quality of the interaction. So don't confuse being around all the time with meaning that you're a better parent. Because for many of us, we could be around for a whole straight 8 hours and we completely ignored our kid. And if we were working or somewhere else out of the home for 8 hours, but we had a half hour of really good time at bedtime, that might be more valuable.
Love that. That's a great way to end. All right. Without further ado, I'm going to announce the winner of the giveaway, and Ariane on
Okay.
our team will be in touch with you. And if you, when I call your name out, if you can just click the raise hand button at the bottom of Zoom so we can confirm that you're here. Um, the winner of the giveaway is Kim Foot. Good try, Amy. Um, hard for me to tell. It looks like Kim is here. Okay, great. So Kim, Ariane on our team will be in touch with you. Um, and thank you,
Congrats,
everybody.
Kim.
Yeah, congrats, Kim. Thank you, everybody, again for joining us. Marielle, thank you so much, you and the Cooper team, for all that you do and in supporting parents in this crazy journey that we're all on together. It's always good to get the reminders on these webinars of the shared experiences we all have, and also to relieve any anxieties that we've put on ourselves or naturally have, because every parent is going through those same things. Um, Thank you
Absolutely.
all for joining us today. We have a lot of stuff going on this month, some new product launches around back to school. We just launched our bento box and our snack cup. Make sure you're also on following us on social at Lalo, because we, at the end of this month, the week of August 19th, we have a 5 days of giveaways where we're doing all self-care giveaways. So we're not giving away tableware and high chairs and all that. We're giving away stuff for you, moms and dads, mostly geared towards moms, I believe. But it's a self-care week of giveaways. So pay attention on our social, because there's going to be some awesome stuff for you to win there as well. Thank you all again, and hope you guys have a smooth transition out of summer and back into your routines.
Thank you. Thanks, Michael. Great to be here.
Bye bye.
Bye.